So hey everyone, my name is Ronak back with another episode. Welcome to the third episode of Let's Talk series. Today the guest of honor is Abhishek Mishra. He is currently working as a software engineer at Saama Research Labs. He works on developing production ready models which are research oriented with the Python frameworks like Flask and Django. He has been a dedicated Python developer since he was a fresher. He has worked for two companies before joining Sama. He has also worked on NLP and machine learning for many years. Apart from his job, he has been actively volunteering as an organizer for events like PyCon and Chaos Carnival. He has also delivered talks on Python in Indonesia and Malaysia through PyCon. He has also been a part of Smart India Hackathon in 2017 as a participant and 2018 as a mentor. Now, the timestamps to this YouTube video will be down in the description box. If you feel comfortable listening to the audio versions of this, those are also available on Spotify and Anchor. The links to those will be in the description box as well. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel. So let us start with the podcast. Hope you enjoyed. Okay, so hey Abhishek, it's good to meet you, and I would actually, like to thank Afrit for suggesting your name for this podcast, and it's also good of you that you were able to spare us your valuable time for this show. So welcome to my show.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. Pleasure meeting you again, Ronak.
Yes. Yeah, so I have a set of generic questions, and we will go through each one of them step by step.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
the first question that I always ask everyone is that where do you work currently and what is your designation?
Mhm.
So tell us a little about where do you work at the moment?
So I currently work at a company called Saama Research Lab. So it's a part of existing company called Saama Technologies, but we mainly focus on research thing. So so Saama Research Lab is mainly focused on like AI, machine learning, and deep learning application, mostly into pharma. And
Mm-hmm.
we have developed quite a lot open source projects also in natural language processing and
Mm-hmm.
as well as for image processing. Yeah. So that's what we do in Sama Research Lab in general. So and we have published like quite a lot of papers as well related to whatever research we have done so far. So I mainly work. So I joined Sama last September, and I mainly work in the backend and the DevOps infra part of the whatever application we develop.
Mm-hmm.
So my primary role here is as a software engineer. I mean designation wise, but our team is not only limited to whatever has been assigned. So a lot of people work not only for example, front end people not only work in front end developing apps and that. So our major goal is to develop production ready applications. So let it be a front end person or back end person. Like everyone should know how thing works in production and how to actually develop production grade apps. So that's what our entire team does. So the team is pretty small here right now. So Sama has like main office headquarters in US and one is in Pune, which is the second office, but the research lab is in Chennai. So I've been in Chennai for last 3 years. So currently, the office itself in Sama. Due to this COVID, I'm working from home. So right
Mm-hmm.
now I'm in Mumbai.
Yeah, so the generic term that you said that you are a software engineer. So basically, software engineering in general is just a term, but you are working as a researcher.
Yeah, sort of. Yes, I would say. And then so a little bit. So it completely depends on your interest because our company is pretty good. They let you work on whatever your area of interest is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you say, hey, I want to work in ML and I have this things, I have already worked on this, and this is what I have explored so far. And so depending on your interest, also you can. So there is no restriction on if you are software engineer, you have to just work on or develop a code. You can't do research thing. It's nothing like that. So we have a team. Whenever something interesting comes up, they do a lot of experiments, hypotheses, and then on the basis of that, they do a POCs, and then they publish the paper. So there is no hard rule like, hey, if you're a software engineer, you cannot do research work. No, it's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the like good part of being in Sama Research Lab. So that's what the most likable part, being working there. So that's the thing. I mean, in general, roles of software engineer. I mean, you might already know it. Like writing codes, doing documentation, and then following all those agile methodology process and all stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that is, of course, will be there, but we try to also um, do sort of independent work. I mean, so doing a stand-ups, it's not always mandatory to what do you say, do a sync up all the day. We have a like proper meeting times and all stuff. So we sometimes we do async work as well, and that's how like so far everyone is working remote, so it's working pretty good.
Yeah, so considering your software engineering background, so for like how many years you have been dedicatedly working as a software engineer?
So so if you consider a job, so it's been like 3 years. So I would say three plus actually. But if you go by designation wise, it's been 2 years because the
Mm-hmm.
moment I graduated from the college and I joined the company, so the designation was associate engineer. So I mean, that really doesn't matter if you're as long as you are doing a development job, you are a developer, and then so of course there are like certain limitations when you call yourself software engineer. There are a lot of things involved, so it's just the same thing. The difference between developer and software engineer, you can actually look on a web and find it about more. So as a software engineer, I consider like I have like 3+ year of experience professionally, and you already know since college time we have been doing all these small projects and hackathons. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a completely different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so considering now, let us talk a little bit about Sama itself. So, like your work is quite more associated with the research, but what are the technologies that you use? So, let us say you work with the NLP, like you said. So, what
Mhm.
specifically are the set of technologies that you use?
Yeah, so in NLP, so we have used a lot of tools. I mean, it's more of exploration part. So Rasa was one of the primarily stack that we use, Rasa NLU. And then on the top of that, we have developed our own frameworks to do all this process. So we have a project called Indic NLP, which is an open source project being driven by Sama technology right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to bring all the Indic languages, so basically NLP on all those languages, understanding all languages of India. So we have a really good work in Tamil, Telugu, Kerala, sorry, Malayalam.
Malayalam.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So those are the things going on. I guess we also have a couple of folks who are working in Bengali and all. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the one project that I'm talking about. So and apart from that, we also have done a lot of projects in pharmaceutical domains. So especially in terms of doing this various studies that we go through, that pharma companies go through while developing vaccines or any drug. So there's
Mm-hmm.
this entire process. So basically automation of that process through machine learning and all these things. So coming to tech stack again, Python is the of course primary one that we use.
Mm-hmm.
So we are completely into Python when it comes to all research activities. So that is our primary language. And for other applications, I mean for front end and all, I guess till now we are using React for all those front end applications, and
Mm-hmm.
the backend depends on depends on the experiment that we do. So right now mostly it's on AWS and Google Cloud, the infrastructure. Yeah.
So, like the backend is being done in the Python, but you also said you have worked on the React. So, like, have you
No, I
worked
haven't
on?
worked on React. I'm just saying in general, like these are the stack that we use in
Oh,
Sama.
oh, oh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So including different DBs and then Kubernetes and all. So that is for infrastructure. But mainly talking about research, we use a lot of Python, and then varieties of this machine learning and deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow and what is that?
PyTorch.
The one from PyTorch, the one from Facebook. Yes, PyTorch.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on, so we have a lot of. So the thing is, our team is really great. You won't believe we have a people who have done a lot of PhDs, people
Mm.
who are in physics, people who are in space science. It's
Mm.
like a combination of a lot of people. Yeah. So the research goes and goes on. Uh, So there are still a lot of papers which are still pending to get published. But yeah, so apart from this research, we also work on product that we are currently working on for other pharma companies. And if you actually normally do a Google for Saama Technologies, you will come to know that for this current vaccine generation of Pfizer, we have played a very major role in um, Pfizer's vaccine study process. So we have
Mm-hmm.
something called Smart Data Query, which is completely built on machine learning models that we have developed completely on NLP.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean this is the basic thing that we do in Sama. So again, the stack is completely on Python and then other things.
So, like, there is a massive form of diversification because you said there are physicists and there are also people who
Yes,
have
yes,
studied cosmology and stuff like that. So, like, many
yes.
doctorates, basically.
Yeah. We have a lot of people like who have done, and it's also the one of the great factor that I like about Sama is we don't have age limitations. So, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we have people who are 16-year-old and working in our company
Mm.
in research lab, and then we have people who are 60 plus who are still doing research with us. So it's completely different people with different background who have a interest in solving the same problem, and then that's how we work. So I mean, it's a great team at our. It's very diverse actually.
That itself is, I think, what matters because work culture, which is very, very free,
Yeah,
doesn't have any obligations, is definitely going to yield a better amount of results as compared to a strict work environment, I presume.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, have you yourself considered a factor like getting a higher degree, or are you happy with whatever the research you are
So
doing at the moment?
So right now, like to be honest, in Sama, I am not associated with any research at this moment. So
Mm-hmm.
currently, I work mostly in backend. But I was planning to do my master's when I was in college. But I mean, of course, due to some financial instability, I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
pursue it. But I have a plan to do masters and then pursue PhD. But that's like my future plan. Not at this moment. But
Mm-hmm.
currently, I'm enjoying my work and the problem, the sort of problems that we are solving for people, actual words. So that matters right now. So we are currently working on that.
Yeah, the work itself would matter because nowadays, like I would assure you that many people don't really go for research, and like you said you are working in the back end, so basically you are responsible for preparing this production level models in
Yeah.
with the
So
research orientation.
yeah. Right. So so basically, whatever models you have, you have to consume them. Okay. So whenever you are
Mm-hmm.
building an application, you have to consume them. At the end, it has to integrate with the end product, right? So
Mm-hmm.
converting them into API and then having a communication back and forth with that, and then making sure that this API is like scaling properly, have a multi-tenancy
Mm-hmm.
application which serves a lot of users because it's a product which is not only being used by one company. There are a lot of vendors and other companies which will use at the same time, right? So your code has to be very scalable, and that's what we do when I say about backend. So having the DB set up properly and then developing the API, which can be used to consume the models and serve models, and then giving the data to front end people and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So now let us talk a little bit about the Virtusa. Okay, so you have joined Sama after switching some jobs, but let us assume that a fresher is trying to get into a company like Sama.
yeah,
You said they have the diversification. Like if they possess the skill, they are going to hire you. But let's say you join Virtusa as a fresher. So what
yeah.
really does it take for a fresher to join Virtusa according to you?
So I so I won't talk very specific to Virtusa. I mean, I'll talk in general about companies.
Mm-hmm.
So to be honest, if you have like basic skills in computer science, so to narrow it down, I would say the computer science basics like DS algorithms, and not exactly the master, but you should know at least one programming language in which you can actually solve your problems. So I believe this thing should be enough to get a normal programming job. Let it be a product-based company or a service-based company. But if your basics are clear, you can easily crack it let it be a Virtusa or Google or whatever company we are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, because in college we definitely have a lot of academics which involves all these things, but students really do not focus from start when it unless it comes for placement time and all. So when you go to fourth year, you try to basically spend more time in solving DS algorithm and then all those dynamic programming problems, and then you will come to know, okay, I need to prepare now so that I can get into a company.
Mm.
So for me, it was so Virtusa, the entrance exam was not that tough, to be honest. I mean, anyone with a very basic understanding of how to write a normal Java program and some MCQs and some DS questions, you could easily solve it. And I believe right now also other companies are not having that tough exams. I mean, apart from this big tech companies like Google, the Fang and all.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely they have some level of difficulties set for the questions to be solved. Because I mean, of course, if you want to go in this that company, you have to be like that smart. Because the kind of problems they solve, it's completely different from other companies as well. That completely differs. So
Mm-hmm.
get as a fresher, I mean, basic skills are definitely required. I mean, I'm not talking about communication skills or not, but at least as a software engineer, what are the things you should know? So these are the basic thing that you should know. Like problem solving approach is like a very important one. Like how you approach the problem, how you break it down, and then how you apply your own algorithms to it, and then solve it. So those things are very important
Mm-hmm.
according to me. So my journey was for Virtusa was not like very fancy, or so I won't say it as a struggle story or something. It
Okay.
was pretty easy. I'll tell you why, because the test was not that hard. Yeah, so I believe there were like few questions, programming questions where you I was supposed to solve some binary search tree or something like that, one small question, and then some was related to string reverse of a string or something like that, and then
Mm-hmm.
there were few MCQs. So it was not that hard. That was first round, so I got cleared through it, and then second round was the technical round, which went really great because that was my first interview, to be honest. And before that, I did not give any interview because I did not get through the initial process itself because
Mm-hmm.
of all those questions. Um, so technical interview was also pretty good. So whatever I had studied so far related to programming languages and their concepts, that helped me a lot. So like object oriented concepts, and then how to write functions, and then how to so I was I so people did not ask me any design pattern questions because as a fresher they really do not expect that from you. But at least like solving a basic problem, and then data structure algorithm and object oriented concepts are important. So that was there, and that's all. And after that, once results are came out, I was selected, and then I went through HR round, and that's all. In HR round, usually they won't ask you technical questions; they will ask about yourself and then what you aspire to do and all
Mm-hmm.
sort of things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Virtusa, like they had a like 2 year service bond. They usually have it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because a lot of training also goes on, right? So the moment you join in, companies also train you so that you go to a
Exactly.
different project. So depending on the requirement different projects have, you will be allocated to that particular project. It's like that.
But
Right
like,
now, complete
mm-hmm.
yeah. So right now there are a lot of changes happening in a lot of companies because previously it was like there are a bunch of client for service-based companies, and once freshers are coming in, they will train you, and then depending on your training that has been done, you will be allocated to a particular project. But nowadays, most of the companies are also having research teams. So you can talk to your managers, or you can talk to HR and say, hey, I would like to go to this team as well, and that's how it works. So when I started with Virtusa, I was working for a company called First Data, which is mostly into credit card payment in US.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked there for some sort of automation project initially, okay, and after that I moved to the R&D department of Virtusa, where we were actually doing NLP problems for business documents.
Mm.
So that was my like the second phase in Virtusa itself.
So you have been in NLP since Virtusa.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. I was doing some sort of, yeah, that was there in Virtusa. And then I moved to little bit of in image processing
Hmm.
uh, as well again in the same, not for the same time, because research team usually has an internal project. So being in research team, I was working on that, and then I
Hmm.
got assigned to some another client, and then I worked there in Python, but mostly in image processing.
Yeah, so let us talk a little bit about the switches you made. Okay, so
Mhm.
after Virtusa, you said that you worked at Essentia.
Yeah, essential
Okay.
software.
Yeah.
So
So what was the motivation for that, like to leave the
okay,
Virtusa?
so I actually got bored of doing ML thing and NLP stuff. To be honest, because I was not solving a lot of good problem. It was like very generic thing, and it was not giving me that kind of kick. Like, hey, it's a good problem that I'm currently working on. I mean, I was doing a lot of studies alongside. I mean, the learning part on NLP, machine learning, and all, but I was not getting that interest. So my
Mhm.
interest was like mainly towards backend development and infrastructure. So that was like very lucrative for me. So then from that moment itself, I started, doing all these things, going into cloud domain, and then developing your APIs, deploying your apps on different infrastructure, GCP, Azure, and all stuff. So that interested me a lot. So I actually dropped this AI ML thing, and then I moved to mostly into backend, and that's how I like join Essentia. So
Mhm.
apart from my work, I am also like quite active in developer communities across Chennai and Bangalore.
Mhm.
So that's how I came to know about this company. It's very small company, sort of startup itself, but uh, we do like independent consultancy, and so it's a service based. There is no product. So
Mhm.
depending on the client work, we kind of work and give services to them. So their main stack was Python, and since college itself, I've been doing Python, and that was like
Mhm.
my primary language. And they were doing really good in that. So I came to know about like they have a vacancy. So there was no very strong motive towards switching Vajusa. It's been a 2 years. I had learned a lot of things again. I mean process wise and all, but in terms of project, I was not getting satisfied by myself. So
Mhm.
that was the actually main motive to switch to Essentia. And then Essentia has a bunch of good developers. To be honest, I mean like a pretty good developers. So when you are in college, you just write code. There is no concept of how to write a good code, a clean code. Okay,
Exactly.
and then how you design your code, how
Hmm.
modular or scalable it should be, and this kind of complete a good code environment was there in Essentia. And so that was also my motive, like I would get a mentor. So the
Mhm.
the founder of Essentia, his name is Anuvrat. He's also really good developer, and like one of the experts, I would say, in Python and infrastructure part. Yeah, so he taught us how to write a good code, and he mentored us through the entire the time I spent in Essentia. So it was a good journey there as well, and that was the main motive. Like at least I'll get a mentor, because as a fresher I joined Virtusa, but I actually did not get any um, proper mentor to go through how exactly you write a good code or production grade code. So
Mhm.
that was the thing. And they were mainly working on Python, Django, Flask, and AWS were their main stacks.
Mhm.
And these people were also mainly from open source communities. So our minds were alike.
Ah.
So that's why I moved forward and said, okay, fine, I'll join Essentia, and then I started working there. So there also, like, my main stack was Python again, and but there was, I did a little bit of change as well, because there was no one in the team to do a front end development at that time. So I also did one project in Vue.js. That was my
Hmm.
like first front end project. A little bit struggle because I really don't like JavaScript, because that's pretty
Same
hard
is
to
the case with
understand for
me.
me. Yeah, so I'm not really good developer when it comes to front end and designing thing and the CSS. I mean, I cannot. If you ask me to center a division, I cannot do it right now.
No, we are like-minded because even I have the
Yeah.
same problem. Like I have always been working in the academics area. I was unfortunate that I didn't got
Mhm.
into the any of the industrial development. But I can tell you that I have been pretty much good with Python and the backend itself. Like the front end
Mm.
stuff was very very complicated, and the most most exhausting thing I would say for me is the CSS. Like that is the
Yeah,
toughest thing I have came across till now. And whenever I speak with any other of the Python developers who are particularly working in like Flask or Django, their response is also same that JavaScript is very hard.
yeah.
Because
So JavaScript is not hard when it comes to the backend development. If you
hmm,
have to develop the API in Node.js and all, I mean, you can do it pretty easily. But then the part that sucks is actually a front end. Like you have to do a
hmm,
lot of CSS as well there, and that's where I also get lost. But I really admire people who are into UI UX because
hmm.
that's a really great job. Man, doing a front end job is not at all easy, and that's I have a lot of respect for people who do front end jobs.
Same, same. So recently, I conducted this podcast with a senior UI developer, and I came to know that the struggle of being UI developer is way much more than a
Yeah,
backend. Because backend you just need logic, you have to type less code. That is the first thing. In front end, the amount and the level of code, like the volume of the code, I would say in
yeah,
particular, the volume is tremendous. So it is actually, I would say, exhausting. And
yeah. I
still
mean,
many people would just under this like the society pretty much tries to compress those people. Like the importance is the upper foremost importance is given to the backend developers and front end devs.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
but the so right now things are being changed. I mean, if you see, so a lot of front end developers are getting really good
Hmm.
paid. I mean, getting paid really good nowadays. So coming to React and all, so there are a lot of demand. Mostly people who are into full stack or front end development. So and the people who are also doing DevOps part.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
So right now, it's not like that. Only backend people are very famous, but yeah, front end people are like now getting very good job, like getting paid very well. So those days are gone now. So right now it's yeah, it's completely full stack and front end, I believe.
Hmm. So now coming to a similar question like the earlier one. So you switch from Virtusa to Essentia. But now let us
Yeah,
talk about
and
switching from Essentia to Sama. Okay, so what was the prospect that you had in the mind? Like with Essentia, you said you were bored of only working with the NLP and you wanted
yeah, so
a
not
switch with
exactly bought off,
backend.
but I was not getting enough opportunities to work in terms of a good code or like a proper development process,
Mm-hmm.
writing a good code, how to do a proper, I mean, how would I say, a proper well written application, I would say,
Hmm.
with a good code and with a good reviews and all things. So in Virtusa, the code reviews and all were not happening as it's expected, but in Essentia, we were actually following a lot of good practices while writing code. We used to do a lot of code reviews, peer reviews, and then even our boss used to code review and then give suggestions. Hey, this can be done this way, and that's how I actually improved a lot. It was a good journey there. I mean, the only I won't say any problem, but so there was no very strong motive to switch. I mean, so financial need was there, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and apart from that, the company was pretty good in terms of learning opportunities because I did Django there. I also did a Flask, and then I also got a chance to do DevOps part and then the front end thing. So I was doing like a sort of full stack there. Okay. I actually got a lot burnout. I
Hmm.
was not able to manage my time, my personal life, and then the actual project life because there were a lot of work and the team was quite small.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not able to cope up with the work and the expectation that people have there, and then sort of delivery I was doing during the last moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I got burnouts, and after that I couldn't sustain more, and that was the reason I wanted to take a break. So yeah, and then so as I said, I was like very I still am very active in communities here around Chennai, and then Sama was looking for few developers there, mostly into backend and then DevOps part.
Mm-hmm.
So and then that's how I started, like applying for Sama. I also applied for a few more companies, but then Sama was also there, and I've been knowing people in Sama for like 3 years.
Hmm.
When they started in Chennai, I already have few friends there, so that's how I applied in Sama, and then I got into a job, and then I joined. I actually joined last September 2020. So I mean, pandemic was not really bad for me because I was doing pretty good. It was not that bad. Like people were like losing job, but fortunately, I was able to get a job. Even
Hmm.
a lot of people suggested me not to switch in the pandemic, but I did so. But I get through it. No, not a problem at all.
No,
Yeah.
this the
So there was no
burnout.
strong
Yes.
motive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the main motive was the work stress. Like you weren't able to
Yes.
balance the things in your personal life,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that was
So
a
work
wise
culture.
decision.
Yeah. So that's how I came to know about like the work culture is really important. Okay.
Hmm.
That matters a lot because your mental health is and mental health should be your priority, not you know because if you are mentally good, you can actually write good code and then you can do other things all side. So balance is really important. So Essentia has a good culture now, but there was like little bit in differences that I mean I couldn't tolerate much. So that's
Hmm.
like my fault. It's not exactly the company's fault and they are not doing good. It's nothing like that. But Essentia is a really good company. It just I couldn't tolerate more, and I just wanted to do a little bit change.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's how I got into Sama.
So that is very important. Like you were actually able to assess your situation, and the main issue with many of the Indian software engineers is that they don't, see that. Like they are aware of the point of the saturation they get, but
Yeah,
they aren't actually taking steps to, like I would say, tackle that situation. Okay, like they are just being hammered and hammered and hammered, and like after 10 years, I would say there is a dead end. Like the
yeah,
like your switch was a strong reason, actually, I would say, because
yeah.
you
It was.
you
Yeah.
started to give priority to your mental health, like over the society.
Yeah, so the thing is, a lot of people don't care about it, but I mean, so even if so the moment I go for a switch, okay, so there are like two priorities I usually see for how is the work culture because I don't
Hmm.
want to get a lot of stress because that not only affects your work, but it also affects your personal life.
Hmm.
So that's how it works, right? And I don't wanted to mix both the things. Okay. Although I was being independent in Chennai, my family was not there, but still, it's about health. I have seen like in usually in Indian developers, especially when you go out of college and all, you usually don't think about it. Okay, and you'll be like, okay, fine, whatever work I get, I'll get it done. I'll spend extra hours and all, because people think spending more time is the productivity key, but it's not.
Hmm.
Productivity doesn't
Exactly.
come after spending 12 or 15 hours of writing code and all. It's really
My
not.
God.
The more time you give to your brain to relax, the more productive it will be. So the key
Hmm.
should be to be sustainable instead of being like working like anything like 15 hours 16 hours, because I used to do a lot. Like last year I've been doing a lot, like 16 hours a day, 14 hours a day, and then
My
all sort of
God.
things. And that's how I got a little bit of burnout. So
Exactly.
and that's what I couldn't sustain myself, and then I
Hmm.
saw my productivity also going down. And then I decided I need a company which has a really good work culture where I can, go and just do things, where people or where the company is actually giving importance to your work-life balance also, plus priority to your mental health. And Sama is doing really good in terms of work culture. It's pretty good company, I would say.
Yeah, and it is basically about everyone's perspective, because some people definitely have that capacity. Some people might not even sustain like 5 or 6 hours. Like after 6 hours, they are going to get the burnout. Some people can
Yeah.
survive for 10 hours. So it is up
Mental
to,
health is important.
yes, one should
What
give
happens
priority.
Yeah, what happens is like we think, even I used to think if I spend more time on work, I'll be more productive, but that's not the
Mm-hmm.
reality.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same was with me. Same was with me. Exactly, I would say. I would engage myself in, unnecessary amount of projects, and after some period of time, I would just, get this stress, massive amount of stress, and then I'll try to relax, but still, that mental fatigue is going to, snatch you from your life. It feels like that.
Yeah. Basically, you lose your interest in doing work. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, getting burnout is not a good thing.
So,
It's like it happens
mhm.
because you are exhausted.
Yes, exactly. So,
Mhm.
you have spoken about that you have been the part of a development community in the Chennai and everything, and also I have heard that you have been a part of conducting workshops. Okay, so let me ask you, what kind of workshops you were basically conducting, and what was the experience like for you?
Yeah, so giving talks and workshop was actually started from college itself.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go to a lot of project exhibitions and then technical paper presentations, inter-college competitions, and then I still remember my first technical paper presentation was in Chennai,
Mm-hmm.
and that was actually a project exhibition as well. Yeah, so we went there. So that's how it started from college time itself. And to talk about specifically about workshops and training part, so I did it that after college. So
Mm-hmm.
postgraduate, like after graduation, so the joining date of Virtusa was still pending. So I haven't got a joining date that time, and I was waiting for it. So there was like a 6 month gap, like before joining the company. So there was one small institute in Andheri in Mumbai where I used to teach kids about programming and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So there I used to take a workshop, and then mostly in Python and IoT, uh, teaching them about Raspberry Pi, and then making small mini projects, and then
Mm-hmm.
teaching them Python, and then little bit about web development and all stuff. So there I did this training stuff, taking workshops and all. And then after coming to Chennai, I got involved in a lot of developer communities. Right now, I organize, like, I'm a organizer of one community called GDG Chennai, which is Google Developers Group,
Mm-hmm.
which mainly focus on Google technologies and the open source tools of it. So right now I'm the organizer of that community. We do meetups, monthly meetups, and then workshops there as well. And apart from that, since I am a very big fan of Python, so whatever POCs or whatever small projects or anything that I learned, I used to give a talk on that. So we have like Python user groups all over India, in different cities,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how the developers community revolves around Python in India as well. So I used to give talk in meetups, and then in even in conferences and also. PyCon India is basically is one of the primary conference for Python developers in India. So that's
Mm-hmm.
what PyCon is for, PyCon conference. And it happens globally as well. There are a lot of countries, they do PyCons every year, and some cities also do it on a local level. So I used to give a talk in all these sessions, all these conferences and all. So PyCon
Mm-hmm.
Indonesia, PyCon Malaysia, and then India. These are the like a few conferences there I've been given a talk apart from the local meetups.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I started doing all these things.
Yeah, so next question was actually pertaining to the PyCon itself. So now let me ask you a little bit in detail that you said that you were a part of the conference in Indonesia, Malaysia, and India. So
Yeah.
what was the thing that you conducted over there? Like which framework or technology?
Yeah. So the thing is, so PyCon India. So PyCons are in general the conferences about PyCon. Sorry, about Python programming language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's like a 4 to 5 days conference where talks happen for like few days, and then workshops and dev
Okay.
sprints or dev sprints, whatever people call it. So sprints are basically open source contributions, where
Mm-hmm.
maintainer of particular open source project will be coming, and then people who are interested in that project, they will be contributing to the project, doing PRs and solving issues and all stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then talks are like a basic talk where speakers are invited. Also speakers are supposed to submit the talk. There's a process when talks get selected. So basically you as a person, if you want to give a talk on Flask, let's say you want to talk more about Flask response class, okay,
Okay.
and you have done some sort of exploration in that. So basically, you will submit a talk in PyCon. So they have a CFP process called call for proposals. So basically, you will submit your talk and you'll say,
Hmm.
hey, I want to give a talk on this topic. This is my abstract, and this is what I'm gonna talk about, and these are the things that will be included. This is the
Mm-hmm.
prerequisites. So a lot of people submit the talk, and they have a limitations like 40 or 30 talks would be happening in PyCons. So depending on the number of limitations, they will review the talk of every person who have submitted the talk, and depending on the reviewers' comment and votes, the talks get selected. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how, in general, PyCon works. And these conferences are completely volunteer driven. There is no
Hmm.
person who's getting paid for doing or organizing the conference. So it's a
Oh.
community, and it's a developer who are actually working in Python and interested in promoting the community as well, and bringing all people in Python community
Mm-hmm.
inclusively. So that's how like I also got involved with PyCon. So I started going to meetups in Chennai. So every city has a different Python user group. So in Chennai we call it as a Chennai Pi, and for Bangalore Python user group we call it as a Bank Pipers.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so every city has this Python user groups. So I started attending these meetups in Chennai. I also started giving talks, small talks I was interested in, and that's how I also submitted a talk in PyCon India.
Hmm.
So talking in general in PyCon India, I gave a talk in on GraphQL basically.
Hmm.
So yeah, and also in PyCon Indonesia, I gave the same talk. And apart from that, in Malaysia, I talked about mostly on Celery, which is a task queue.
Okay.
So these are the few topics. Yeah. So whatever you explore, you can submit your talks, and if it gets selected, you are invited to give a talk there. So that's how
Wow.
it works usually. Yeah.
So actually, you physically went to Malaysia and
I
Indonesia.
went to Indonesia because the PyCon Malaysia happened 2020,
Oh.
and due
Ah.
to COVID it was cancelled. Yeah. So but Malaysia one I give it remotely, but Indonesia, yeah, I attended personally. So that's the thing.
So like, do they pay your incentives, or you have to pay for it
So
yourself?
it depends. A lot of conferences have the sponsorship bandwidth where they give support, what we call it, travel reimbursement, and then support
Mm-hmm.
for speakers. So it depends conference to conference.
Hmm.
So
So.
usually they have a budget, and then they'll ask you, okay, fine, we will give you the travel reimbursement and then the budget for the accommodations and all. So
Hmm.
PyCon Hyderabad was also one of the conference that happened. So it's a regional conference, PyCon Hyderabad. So they also give, depending on speakers' request, they support the speakers in terms of finance. So they usually have, all the conferences have this finance aid program where you have to request them, hey, I cannot, like financially I'm not able to come there, or I won't be able to do it because of this reason. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
conferences have this option where you can just request them, just tell them why you want to attend, and then why you should grant it a sponsorship amount to come and then do things. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
really good in community, you're in active, they will usually accept it and then give you to the tickets. So PyCon US, Euro Python, and PyCascades. There are like bunch of conferences which usually supports the financial aid thing.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it is I would say, a great chance to meet
a
set
lot
of
of
like-minded
developers.
people.
Yes, yes.
Actually, I have been a Python developer since last 3 or 4 years, but I wasn't
Mhm.
aware that it is a volunteering one. Like I
No,
like.
it's yeah. The conference is completely voluntary. I mean,
Mhm.
people come together to do volunteer to the conference. Like it's not. So if you're good in designing, you can create a posters and banners for all those announcements.
Hmm.
And if you're good in web development, you can support there. And if you want to be in promotion team, you can be a part of that. So there are a
Hmm.
lot of work groups involved around organizing conferences, logistic parties there, and then you know organizing an event basically, in-person event, how you do it for weddings and all those things.
Hmm.
The only difference is here you have, yeah, so only difference is here you have a proper schedule of talks. You also have to
Mhm.
interact with the speakers, and then so logistic part is also there, and then this part is also there where you have to select the talks, and then invite speakers, take care of them like that.
Like you have to bring something new or the other to the table, or you can revisit some concept. Like you said, you have you are only eligible if you make a discovery in the
It's
particular
not like
framework.
that. It's not like that. It's not like you have to be there only if you do some discovery. So, for example, if you wanna give a talk in how to write test cases in Python, you can
Mm-hmm.
actually submit a talk on that. Depending on what sort of content you are presenting in a conference, what sort of value it brings in for people who
Mm-hmm.
will be attending it, whether it's really valuable or not, you can actually do it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like if you are an expert, then only you have to submit it. I'm not an expert at all in Python. Okay, so it depends what exactly you want to talk about. For example, I have seen talks where you talk about how to cache Python functions
Mm-hmm.
in a program. How do you cache a Python function? Or give a
Mm-hmm.
talk about decorators, or how you can contribute to Python. There are wide varieties of things, like depending on what sort of contribution you have done to you, or what sort of usage you have done using Python.
Mm-hmm.
On the basis of that, you can give a talks.
Oh.
It's not, yeah, it's not like that. If you are into research or something, then only you are eligible to give a talk. So the
So,
talks can revolve around
mm,
technology plus the community as well in general. So you
okay.
can also give a talk like how can we include more people in Python community, who are like underrepresented groups and people who are all sort of things, more diversity basically.
So in total, you have been part of three PyCons, like Indonesia,
Yeah, so that's
Malaysia, and
like
India.
yeah. So there are different. So in general, Python has a lot of different user groups. So PyCon Malaysia and Indonesia, I've been there as a speaker. PyCon
Hmm.
India, I'm like one of the organizing team members.
Organizing team. Yeah.
Yeah, and for PyCon Hyderabad also, I was there as a speaker. So I also volunteer. So there's something called PyCon APAC, Asia Pacific, so which
Oh.
is like a combination of all Asia Pacific countries, and we organize one conference in general over a year in
Hmm.
particular country. So volunteering is in general. I'm very active in Python community and GDG communities. Yeah.
Yeah. So just like PyCon, you have been also a part of the Chaos Carnival, isn't it? So,
Yeah. So
hmm. So let us
yeah. You can
know a
continue the
little bit
question.
about the Chaos Carnival.
So Chaos Carnival sounds like a pretty actual carnival, but it was mostly on chaos engineering. So
Mm-hmm.
people who don't know what exactly chaos engineering is, so if you have your system, I would say the application, or I would say entire system, basically you inject chaos inside your system to break things,
Hmm.
and then see how resilient your systems to come back. So how resilient the
Oh.
system, how fast it's recovering, how fast it takes over a failure. So for
Hmm.
example, I would say this term was initially, I believe, coined by Netflix. They have a tool called Chaos Monkey. So they basically launch all these agents. What they do is they can. So in Netflix, they do it on live production systems. So
Oh.
they launch this. They launch this agents called Chaos Monkeys. They have agents. So basically, it's an automated process, so they will go and break actual anything. So for example,
Oh.
imagine a scenario: you have a server room,
Mm-hmm.
and you just freeze some monkeys inside a room, they will break anything. So
Oh.
just take it down to a virtual concept. Like if you have a running production system, you
Mm-hmm.
send the agents there, and they can do anything. They'll break system, break the DB connection, inject some security issues, and just what is if overflood all those API requests, and
Mm-hmm.
then do, block the traffics and all sort of things basically. So that's the part of chaos engineering. So chaos engineering makes sure that uh, it's a process to basically prevent all these things. So if
Mm-hmm.
any failure happens in your system, how fast or how resilient your system is to take that thing over. That's about chaos engineering. So chaos carnival is like one of the conferences that we did this year. It happened in Feb itself actually. um, and we have like really great speakers from different companies. And chaos engineering is still like evolving. It's also not
Mm-hmm.
very. I'm not sure like whether people also have heard of it or not, but it's also comes like site reliability part and all also comes under it.
Mm-hmm.
So all this area is quite related.
Even I also never heard of it. I saw it in your LinkedIn, but I wasn't aware what really it is. People can give names. There might be conventions. So I thought that the chaos is just a generic name given to
No,
something.
so yeah. So this conference was, so we wanted to add a feel of a conference again. So we wanted to give it a like good name to it. So that's what Chaos Carnival, where so Carnival as in like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people come in to
Festival.
actually celebrate, have fun. Yep.
Mm.
So that's what we wanted to do. And this conference for this year, it was the first edition of the conference.
Mm.
And going forward, we're gonna yeah. So this year only we launched this conference, and then going forward, we're gonna do it every year. So there are a lot of tools. There's a tool from Gremlin. There's a tool from Chaos Native, which is called Litmus
Mhm.
Chaos. So these are the like different open source tools which are used in chaos engineering to inject all those things. So yeah, so Chaos Carnival was a conference basically for chaos engineering.
Mm. And you have been an organizer of this.
Yeah, so there were four people being an organizer for Chaos Carnival. So, since I was very active in developer communities, I used to organize a lot of events and meetups across Chennai. So there is one more person called Mohan, who is also very active in communities, and
Mm-hmm.
his main area was interest is chaos engineering and then all infrastructure part in general and system designing and distributed systems. So we wanted to, so we also do a one podcast called podcast.yaml, which is
Mm-hmm.
mainly in cloud native and Kubernetes domain. We usually do podcast specifically on that domain.
That's
So
nice.
one of the people from Yas, one of the person CTO reach out to us for doing a conference on chaos engineering, and that's how we started. So Mohan and
Mm-hmm.
I were like very good friends when it comes to communities. Usually, we used to talk behind the stage and do a lot of talks about what we can do and all. Apart from whatever topics or sessions going on, we actually never used to attend sessions. We usually go backstage and then we used to talk a lot about what's going on and what to do next in terms of doing planning events and then community contributions. So that's how I got started, and then that's how we started planning events because I already had an experience of doing a PyCon
Mm.
2019 and other events across Chennai. So we also have a DevFest, which is called Developer Festival from Google Developers Group Chennai. So
Mm.
we also did that. So I had this experience of doing conference, and then no one thought, okay, probably Abhishek will be a good choice for good addition to team as well. So that's how we started this Chaos Carnival thing.
So all of the events or let us say volunteering that you do are also related to kind of your career. So they are aiding your career, I would say, making a resume
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very strong.
yeah, right. So it's not off the topic. It's mostly
Exactly.
into tech community itself. Yeah,
Because that
and
is
these
good.
are all like voluntary thing because I usually like to get involved in developer communities because
Mm.
like one of the main factors is like you get to know a lot of people, you build a
Exactly.
network, and then you can actually, it's pretty fruitful to be active in community. You can also help others, or if you need any help you can also ask for help. So that's how it
Mm-hmm.
works.
Yes, that is very good. And even you mentioned about the podcast, so that is also good. Even I myself have started this podcast a little bit earlier. The reason was that to bring out the people who have excelled in their careers in front of everyone. So, is that the notion that you are following in your podcast? What are the things that you particularly speak about in your podcast?
Um, so, uh, so as I mentioned, there's a podcast called Podcast.yaml. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you consider the name, so Podcast.yaml is actually mainly about Kubernetes and cloud native domain.
Mm-hmm.
So .yaml is basically a configuration file that we usually
Hmm.
write in a lot of infrastructure and configuration
Yes, yes.
management things, right? And also .yaml file is mainly used in Kubernetes in general as well. So that's how we come up with the name podcast.yaml,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we mostly talk about people who have been a very expert and then have built a really good tools on top of that, or a contributor, um, or the products which are built on top of that. So we usually invite those people who are leaders and even developers, and then good good software engineers in the same domain, and then we invite an interview with them, like how they come up with the ideas, or like according to them what is this, how they see the future of Kubernetes and all stuff. Okay, so that's the one podcast. So the other podcast that I was talking about is called as Talk Overflow,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which is driven by GDG Chennai team. We are doing it that independently, and in that talk we talk mostly about how we are doing it right now with the people who are very active in community, and then who have achieved really good in community, and then very well known person, and who are very humble as well. So we usually try to bring those people and try to introduce them to our community, so that whatever journey they have gone through, and that can inspire others as well. So that's how we do it. So people who are very active in community, we have done a great job. We invite them
And
around Chennai.
what are the platforms where it is posted?
So right now, both the podcasts are on Spotify, Anchor, even
Mm-hmm.
Google Podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
then Apple as well. Yeah, it's there.
Definitely pass me the link later on. I'll even post it in the description box below for our viewers.
Yeah, sure.
So
Thanks a lot.
yeah,
That would
yeah,
be a
yeah,
great
yeah.
addition.
I'll definitely promote it. And
Yeah.
now, so this was the kind of volunteering. Now let us talk about your interest and your most loved thing, that is hackathons. So
Okay.
I would in particularly like you were a part of Smart India Hackathon. So tell us
Yeah.
about the experience.
So it was pretty good. So I eventually I just got a chance once participating in Smart India Hackathon. That was like
Mm-hmm.
my third year or last year. In between that, but before that, we were doing a lot of projects. So before doing engineering, I also completed my diploma in computer science. So I
Mm-hmm.
did not do 11th, 12th. So I came from a diploma background, and there as well in last year we started doing projects, etc. And then when I came in my graduation, so I saw there used to be a function, the Tech Fest and all events. Okay, so that interested me a lot, and then the faculties for IT department were really helpful and pretty well versed in knowledge, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. So I mean, I usually say whenever people ask me what is the most uh, missing thing you would like to visit again, so I usually say my college time, because of our IT department teachers, and whatever knowledge they have given us. um, so then I started doing very small projects using Python and Raspberry Pi,
Mm-hmm.
and started participating in Tech Fest here in our college, and that's how it interested me to go further and then participate in hackathons. So our teachers, professors were pretty good in helping us. They used to guide us a lot. Hey, this conference is happening, or this particular event is happening. Go submit the papers, publish your papers, work on POCs, and do sort of things. And then that's how we also started with hackathon, Smart India hackathons. And not only that, Smart India hackathon was not only the one hackathon that we participated, but there were a lot of inter-college competitions that used to happen, regionally. So we
Mm-hmm.
also participated there. So it was pretty good. The stack was so my first Smart India hackathon was for Indian Railways, which was in Jaipur in one of the
Mm-hmm.
colleges, and we were actually top six participants there when the results came out, and that was pretty good. So the project was about linkage between public transport and commuter trains in western region, basically from Mumbai locals and
Mm-hmm.
the busways. So it was pretty good. So we used the same stack as I mentioned, Python, AWS, and Raspberry Pi, and then that's how we did it.
You were working on the Python part, like you were the part of Python.
Yeah. Python and Raspberry Pi was one of the things, and then the sort of AWS IoT as well.
Mm-hmm.
So creating topics, subscribing to a topic, and then calling the API, and all those things. So we were also using pandas very heavily, because we did not have a lot of Raspberry Pis. So we were trying to use single Raspberry Pi as the entry gate, as well as the exit case as well. So that
Mm-hmm.
was the thing. So we did a lot of pandas processing so that we can use the same device twice.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from that, I guess I also mentored our juniors in 2018 Smart India
Mm-hmm.
Hackathon for Ministry of Information Broadcasting. There, that was also a pretty good application that we were trying to build, but unfortunately we couldn't qualify for the last one because there were plenty of good projects during that time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Like I would say, after 2017, like in the
Hmm.
18, the competition took a pace, and in 19 and 20, it became very, very hard. Like even if
Yeah.
you wanted to qualify for finale, it was very, very difficult because
Yeah.
all of the colleges started taking interest, and government
Yes.
was
Yes.
promoting the initiative for the developer community and everything. So
Hmm.
as the time started growing, like the years, it definitely became very, very difficult. I know. So actually, I was also
Yeah.
helping one of the team for writing the abstract to get selected. So it was very hard. It is, I would say, even a little bit of luck played over there to get selected for the finale. But once you get selected for the finale, it is like completely balls to the walls. You have to work, otherwise
Yeah.
you are done. So
But the
actually,
experience is very thrilling.
yes, 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 definitely. Like we were in the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So our hackathon was in the Assam. So
Yeah.
we went to all the way to the Guwahati. So there it was conducted in
Hmm.
one of the colleges, and it is very, very thrilling. Like I would say, it is kind of extreme learning experience that you can have in your engineering. Otherwise, you
Yes.
won't get a chance like that again in your life, ever, ever again. And
Yeah.
talking
So
of
you
it,
have a
yeah,
48 hours and
yes, 36
yeah, yeah,
most
continue.
likely.
Sorry.
Most likely 36. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
have to stay awake for 36 hours and build the entire project right from the scratch. So talking of that, like most of our
Yeah.
audience is going to be sophomores, or let us say the people who are looking forward to do engineering or any field.
Hmm.
So I would like to shed some light on this topic of how hackathons really play an important role in your overall academic
Yeah.
development.
Hmm. So you won't believe I still participate in hackathons. So even after graduating from college, getting into professional life, I still attend a lot of hackathons.
Mhm.
So so that is really important because hackathons are like a moment. So in within very small time period, you have to basically build a project where it involves a lot of team collaboration. That's also a very good learning. So
Mhm.
how you communicate with them, and then how fast you can process things, and then the collaboration is really important because as a single person you cannot independently do work. It requires a team collaboration. So it also gives you like sort of ability of thinking fast and doing things because you break things and then you work at the end. Of course you don't build a final product as in which can be consumed, but at least you have a prototype,
Mhm.
working prototype. So brainstorming sessions, and then mentors are also coming in during the hackathons. They give you inputs, you analyze them, and then you rectify, and then you again implement your things. So hackathons are actually really good part when it comes to academics because you get to know about your skills, and then you also get to know about how uh, how would I say, how improved or how can you improve your skills more.
Mhm.
And you will come to know about your capability and caliber, like what are the things you're currently working on and how long will it take to build that particular project. So apart from that, it also, I mean, as mentioned, team collaboration and then all sort of skills are also important, and hackathons will definitely give you that. So the mindset is very important because within a small time period, I have seen startups coming out of hackathons. So
Mhm.
ideas are very important. So when you go to a hackathon, you go with an idea, and then when you communicate with other people, you get more ideas. So
Mhm.
basically, you also get validated there, like, hey, whether my idea will definitely work or not. Or if it's really very out of the box, then you can actually build your own company out of that. So I've seen a lot of people, school and college students doing startups after hackathons.
Mhm.
So So participating in hackathon is also important. I mean, people who are really interested in coding and developing products, I would suggest them to participate in hackathon because there are a lot of opportunities. A lot of companies also comes in, to see what kind of projects you are building. You also get to know about contacts. I have seen people getting internships through hackathons and jobs through
Hmm.
hackathons. So that's also there. Okay, it's not only about your skill enhancement. You also get to know about different people, and people also see your work, and then they see an opportunity. Like if I get this person in my team or in my company, definitely it will be a value addition.
Hmm.
So of course, if you're really interested, if you're really good in coding and all, do participate in hackathons. That's going to add you a lot of things. So there are two to three type of hackathons. I mean, uh, there are hackathons which are mostly on competitive programming, and there are hackathons where you actually build products or do some help. And there are something called hackathon which are based for learning. Okay, so where you go and then pick your topic, and you don't know anything about that topic. Okay, it's just very basic things. So you learn and you build. So
Hmm.
sort of skillathon, I would say.
Exactly.
So that's one thing. Yeah, so there are two three categories of it. So if you are really good into competitive programming, you like to solve all these problems, you can definitely do that. Or if you are mainly into developing prototypes, products, sort of thing, you're welcome in that. And then high skillathons are basically for building up your skills. So I
Hmm.
used to perform in hackathon skillathons as well. Like I remember once, I guess in 2008 19, I guess I also participated in one of the hackathons, MLH hackathons called Build to Learn,
Hmm.
in Chennai. And there we used Flask and other Clarify APIs to develop a very basic app where you can mm, give the ingredients to an app. It will give you the list of recipes and all, depending on the image recognition part and all stuff. So it was very
Hmm.
basic thing, but I just wanted to do it for fun. So I participated there with other people. I did not know any members. Everyone was very new to me as well. So we communicated. We decided which person will be doing front end, back end, and all sort of things. So I mean, this part is also, it's really fun. Apart from you also get to learn a lot from hackathons. And then another part is, if you win, you get a lot of prizes, and then you get job offers and internships. So
Hmm.
this is also one way to go through it. And I also do not always recommend to go for all sort of placement. There are a lot of companies which are better than placement. You can go off campus and all, depending on your skill level.
Yeah, and the startup point you talked about is very, very important. Like, I have personally seen many people who have been a part of hackathon. Like, the best experience, like, after Smart India Hackathon, I would say was National Stock Exchange Hackathon for me. So
Mhm.
the NSA hackathon, and it was a immense competition. Like there were like just like the Saama Research Lab, there were people from very, very diversified fields. There were
Yes.
physicists, there were mathematicians, even I saw some economists. And
Yeah.
there my network grew very rapidly. Like that was a great experience. And apart from that, I had one of my college friends. So he was roaming over there, and he just came to out of curiosity to just attend the event in that fashion. And we just spot him, and like we said, okay, join us. So that is how our team built, and we worked on a time series forecasting
Yes.
application. Like that is a great experience, I would say, because just focusing on academics 24/7 is not going to be fruitful as much as you can absorb from these experiences, because it is
Yes.
all
Yes.
about the
True.
networking. Yeah,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it
True.
makes sense. The points you said
Yeah.
were very, very valid, because you also have been in hackathon, and I also have a personal experience, so I can relate it to very much. But for the people who are not trying to put an effort into doing anything, they should definitely do it. It is going to
Yeah,
value
hackathons
them a
add
lot.
add a lot of values. Yes, yes. I mean, the experience adds. I mean, I cannot explain it, but it's really great experience participating in hackathon. You go through mentorship rounds, and then
Hmm.
whatever evaluation points you get, you go to next level and all. Then you also learn from your mistake what I can do next time in hackathons. So
Exactly.
it's not like that. If you fail in one hackathon, don't participate in other. Okay, like learn from your mistakes and then participate in other, and then see how you can actually solve or fix all those issues or mistakes. So that's what it was. Even there are a lot of hackathons only for startups. So in Chennai, we have something called Startup Weekend
Hmm.
hackathons, which is for again 24-hour hackathon. You come up with a very small MVP model or a very small prototype model, and then you present in front of people or panel who are already an entrepreneur and investors, and
Hmm.
then you know, so it's also there.
It is a
So I've been
valuable
like,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, I've been a mentor for a few of the hackathons as well.
Hmm.
So the only thing matters that is like, how well you present your thing and how well your product comes out. That's the like end product, right? Because
Hmm.
uh, even if your uh, project is not built completely, it's not integrated well, but if it is in a presentable manner, you will still show in UI, and then from backend some another person will read the UI,
Hmm.
and then you see the output. That's also fine because it's a prototype. So there are a lot of hacks to hackathons as well. It
Exactly.
all depends how
Exactly.
you want to do it. Yeah.
I have also spoken about this with Afred. Like there was a hitch. Like many people would say they are working on the React, but in the end they end up using Bootstrap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a lot
that
of
is
people
a
do it.
there is a hitch, but in hackathon I would say they only look for the goal. Like whatever the task they have given, you gotta complete it. No matter which
Yes.
framework, which technology, or which conventional unconventional method you use, you
Yeah,
should
yeah,
be
yeah.
able to complete the project. And my first
Yes,
hackathon
yes.
was really a dirty mess, I would say. But after that, I got this idea of teaching Flask because my Flask was very weak. And the
Mhm.
hackathon, just like you talked about the skillathon inclination, so that was able
Yeah.
to develop my Flask. And after that, I was called as a technical trainer in for many of the workshops. So yeah, it
Mhm.
finally ended up like that. Hackathon ended
That's
up
amazing.
in providing me workshops. So yes, so similarly, it can also offer jobs.
Yes, yes. It does help.
And in startups, I think if you have a set of hackathons in your account, you're going to get more credibility. Like your resume has a higher chance of selecting because
Yeah, I have
startups
seen
really value
people.
hackathons.
Yes, yes, yes. I have seen people getting into good companies due to hackathons, and then that sort of problems they have solved. So, I mean, there are a lot of hackathons which are theme based, where you say, hey, you have to use only Google Cloud or you have to use AWS Stack,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
those are also there. I consider them as a learning hackathons mostly.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if it is a, I would say, very framework specific or a theme specific, so yes, you have an opportunity over there to improve.
yeah,
So now, so the hackathon part is pretty much you have explained it briefly.
yeah. I spend a lot of time. My bad. I mean, I get all excited about hackathons, and then all those
Same,
project things.
same. So now, as a Python developer, so right from the college itself, okay, not even in hackathons, but even in the job sector, you have been
Mhm.
working with Python as a Python developer at the end. So whatever you are doing boils up to Python. So
Yep.
now let us talk a little bit about what is your perspective on the prospects in the area of the Python for the next 5 years. So, what do
Mhm.
you think where the Python is going to take you in the next 5 or 10 years? Like that.
You mean to me or in general?
To you. Let's say just to you for now.
Okay, so I mean, for me, I mean, I would say it's not a really good question for me, because Python is already doing a great in a lot of fields. It's
Hmm.
not just for me as a developer. I mean, you have seen we people have discovered or created an image of black hole using
Hmm.
Python, and I'm not sure if you heard of this news or not, but NASA uses Flask a lot for their ground data systems,
Hmm.
and yeah, and
Oh.
then of course there are a lot of bunch of big companies which uses Python, Netflix, Instagram, and all sort of things. So Python is pretty much everywhere. A lot of companies who are into data analytics, machine learning, predictions, and all sort of things, stock market analysis and all, they all are using Python. So it's already very diverse domain. So
Hmm.
I would say for me it's going to be the same thing, because I'm mostly into backend development. So it will be mostly for uh, Flask, Django, these two frameworks. And right now, I'm also trying to learn Fast API, which is like very similar to Flask, but gives a lot of support in asynchronous programming.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that's also there. So for me, I mean, my goal would be to definitely going forward contribute to Python community. I mean, as in the code in general, and then community. I'm already doing it right now. So for me, it's I haven't decided so far, but I need to like get learn more because every day a lot of features are coming in Python right now. Python 9 has like released,
Hmm.
if you know, and it has a lot of features, a lot of good features. A lot of people have already migrated from Python 2 to 3. So there's a lot of scope when it comes to mastering one language. I don't think so. I can master Python because it's very huge.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things. It depends on what sort of domain you're working on. There are plethora of libraries depending on different domains in finance, in infrastructure, and in AI/ML, and for data processing, for file processing. There are a lot of things, right? So I see. I mean, future is already here. Python is already booming. I don't think so. There is much to predict because everything is fairly visible to the people. But yeah, I would like to see how fast Python can be as compared to other programming languages. It's
Hmm.
still improving on its speed because I mean, of course, it's a very dynamically typed language. Okay, and it's interpreted language. So the speed, of course, matters a lot when it comes to very scalable systems. If you compare this with systems like Clojure, Auxiliary, and then Go and all, they are like pretty fast in terms of distributed systems and scaling thing and speed optimization level. So I would like to see how Python progresses on that part. But mastering one language is not at all very easy, and I don't believe in the word master at all, because you cannot have a control over it. It keeps evolving. It's a technology. So that's the thing. I haven't decided for myself what I would be doing with Python in later 5 years. I'm not sure. Career wise, I mean, I have decided few goals and milestones that I would like to achieve. So that's a different thing. That's not directly related to Python in general.
Now, let us talk about another question. So, you have been a part of both the companies. Okay, so it was even service-oriented company, and it was also a product-based company. Like the company
Mm.
that you worked at right now, at this moment, is product-based, and Virtusa, I think, was service-oriented.
Yeah. Virtusa and even Essentia was service-based company. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what were the differences that you found, and which would you prefer more over one another?
So I don't have a preference in terms of when it comes to a development project. The only trade-off is when you work on service-based company and product-based companies, like your technologies might vary. For example, in service company, it depends on client what exactly they want to work on, and we give them suggestions, or hey, we're gonna use this framework. And it is possible that once you're done with that client, you might not get the same technology to work on for another client in the same company. So that's the major difference. Whereas in product-based company, you have your own product, you have own tech stack, you work on that, you experiment. So you get like a little longer time to expose yourself to that particular technology. Whereas in service-based company, it completely depends on the project, the type of project you're working on.
Hmm.
So learning will be there on the both the sides. Okay. The only thing is what is your preference, what you want. If you want to spend more time in one particular technology for a longer time, do that. Or if you want to be in multiple technologies depending on the client project, you can do that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
there is the like a major difference between service based company and the product based company, wherein the process to develop the app, to do releases, will be mostly same.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is no major difference. It's just like you have the product ownership and in the product based company. That's all matters.
And now let us talk a little bit about the academics. Okay, so have you ever came across to use any of the things that you have acquired academically in your job, any of the jobs?
Yeah, I would say yes, definitely. So software engineering principles are very important.
Hmm.
uh, so when we study, we really don't understand what these things are, change, what is change management,
Exactly.
what is the review process, or even the Scrum models and all that we studied. What exactly that? What is the sprint? Okay,
Hmm.
what is this thing? We really don't understand. We just study from the perspective of exams. But these are the actual implementation in software engineering process when you go to companies. You will
Hmm.
have sprints, you will have your reviews, you will have scrum meetings, you will have all the standards and all. Okay, you will follow the same model that is mentioned there. So software engineering principle matters a lot. I mean, definitely it helps. It's like, hey, I'm not gonna be manager. Why do I care for it? It's not like that.
Hmm.
You will be a part of that process, so you have to understand what this is. So it does help for sure. Okay, talking about data structure algorithms, it does helps. So getting
Hmm.
into a job, the sort of problems you want to solve, data structures and algorithm matters a lot at that time, because you have to break the problems. You have to decide which data structure is suitable for this, solving this particular problem. What sort of algorithms I can use, to minimize the time complexity of the current algorithm that we're using. So it does matters. The only thing is we are not getting a properly exposed how to
Hmm.
actually use these things in industry, or when it actually comes to your actual job professionally. So that transparency is not there. There is a still gap between, when it comes to academics, people study but still people do courses so that they can come to know, hey, how I can do these things and that thing. But honestly, if you study from the perspective of learning things, it would be easy for you to get into any company and then start working it on it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so academics does matter. I mean, I have personally felt it. For example, if you have open source technology subjects, or mainly on Linux and all,
Hmm.
Linux
OST.
kernels, that, yeah, so that will help you a lot. Like writing shell scripts and writing very small programs.
Hmm.
The only I guess now the syllabus for most of the universities are updated again, so
Hmm.
the learning
Exactly.
is also mainly towards frameworks rather than just a programming language.
Yes.
So the only difference is we have to understand how we can use these frameworks in our actual work or during
Hmm.
professional life. That's very important. Just not for exams, but it helps, because when you go for a placement, campus placement and all, you at that time you will again study data structures and algorithm properly, how to solve it. But then when it comes to your normal academics, you won't study. You just study for the exam. So
Hmm.
of course, whatever subjects are there in your academics, it does help. I mean, there is no question about it. The only thing is, how do you apply it? That's the question. The application of that is very important. You have to understand that.
And like even I remember before we passed out. Okay, so the recent syllabus, there were like
Mhm.
numerous amount of shocking changes made. So I
Yes, yes,
remember this subject from our fifth semester, computer graphics, CGVR.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it has been kept as an elective. Apart from that, the computer simulation and modeling in the eighth semester we had. So even that subject has been kept as an elective, and OST has been eliminated. So I think it has now merged into the OS subject itself. OST, like open source technologies, is now I
Mhm.
think a small part of operating system. So
I see.
there were many major changes, and now they have introduced like R programming and Python and whatnot.
Python, IoT, and all.
Yes, IoT. Then I think there is something known as green engineering or something like that. Okay, so all of these subjects have been introduced. Like
Mhm.
we had those standard subjects in our engineering.
Yeah, yeah. I do remember that. Yes. OS is really important. I mean, again, when it comes to computer science, your math should be good, and operating system concepts, and then data structure algorithms. That's how machine works.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are really important. Even if you are not mastering one programming language, if you are clear with all these things, you can definitely learn things. Not a
Mm-hmm.
problem. And major software engineering principles will be applicable when you be a team lead or you be a manager. Because you are the holder of that process, you will
Mm-hmm.
monitor all those things. But as a software engineer, you will be a part of it.
Mm.
That's the difference. So usually people don't follow those things. Like, hey, okay, sprint is there, but nobody will able to connect. Okay, this is the same sprint that we studied about Scrum methodology and all stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now, what I would like to say is that all the things that you have done till now have actually shaped your character and made it into the version you are apparently. So one thing that I would like to ask you personally, that who was the most influential person? So let us assume right from the college, who are responsible for shaping you into the person that you are right now. So let us say all of the
Yeah.
organizations and till now, so till Sama, so starting from your engineering till Sama, who have been responsible for shaping your future?
Yeah. So okay. So responsible, as in I would say the person should be itself. So because we see and then how we do things. So if
Hmm.
you talk about getting influence, I was during college time I was influenced by two professors. One like Gerald Kuriakos.
Hmm.
Another professor was Vani ma'am, because they were the one. They actually ignited ideas in our mind, like, hey, you can do these things and all. And that's how I
Hmm.
started doing Python. And then sort of guidance and then mentorship that they were doing were really amazing. We used to even stay late in the college and do a lot of projects, building robots and doing sort of things for
Hmm.
hackathons and other things. And so there are a lot of people in the community, developer community in general as well, where I would like to, be like them. Not exactly be like them, but then the qualities that they have, I would like to learn those qualities. And of course, that comes from experience. It's just not like a transfer learning or something. So like even my previous boss, he was a really good developer. He had a really good skill of solving the problem very easily, doing a fast debugging. I mean, just giving one example, we used to get stuck in like few problems for like 30-40 minutes, but he used to come and see, okay, this is the problem, that's why it's not working.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those sort of abilities, and of course I understand this comes with experience, because experience gives you a lot of learning. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people. I mean, if I start taking name, the list will go on and go on. But from college time, I would say, yeah, Dhwani ma'am and Jeril sir was the one. They actually coined, or I would say ignited our mind to, perceive the things ahead. Yeah, so far I would say them. And then there are a lot of colleagues and then people in the community, like I actually get influenced by them, who are into completely open source community, contributing to Fedora, contributing to Red Hat, Ansible,
Hmm.
and Kubernetes, and a great developer in general. How do they design or write a code, a modular code? I still
Hmm.
see them their codes and then see, okay, this is really good. I can also write code like this. And so there are a lot of people actually.
Hmm.
So there is no one specific personality like, hey, I would like to be like that. I would like to be like an Elon Musk or something. No, it's not like that. I like different qualities, and then the learning part from different people, and that's what I try to adopt as well.
Hmm. And now, this is, I would say, a last question. Okay, so this was a very
Yeah, we've
great
been talking for
podcast.
like a long time.
No, the reason I actually, found this podcast very good is because even I myself am a Python developer, and the things that you have done, I can also relate because I have also been working with the ML. I've also been working with the Flask. Okay, so there were many related things that we spoke about. But from a your point of view, with all of your experience, I would like to give you a message for our audience. So, what are the some of the specific things or details that you would like to share with the audience?
Okay, so if people who are really into development and they want to be a good developer, I would say read about the basic principles of software designs, how you write a good code. And so the first step is, of course, to get trained with the data structures
Hmm.
and algorithm, but not really like a very how it, because nobody will ask you to write a binary search tree when you actually start doing work. Okay, so don't worry about that, but at least have a strong knowledge on the data structure part, algorithm, and then how operating systems in general work,
Hmm.
what sort of memories they have, stack and all stuff, how kernels work, the communication part, because these are like a foundation of computer science. uh, if you do not know this, on top of that, whatever you write a code, you will not know how to make it more faster, how to optimize it later on. You don't know that, because writing a program involves a lot of thought process,
Hmm.
And if you improve your thought process, then you will come up with a really nice code, which
Hmm.
will be a very beautiful code, I would say, if you see it. So this is the like a very basic thing, I would say. And then try to participate in hackathons if possible, not mandatory, but be active in communities. That
Hmm.
will help you a lot, because when I was in college and even now, I don't have any mentor to get through it. A lot of self learning is required, have a ability of doing self learning. But if you want to someone to be your mentor, you can easily find them in your community. So that's the reason I would say be active in the community. That's a very really important point. You will get to know a lot of people, because there are people who might be working on the same project as you want to work on, or the same problem that you're solving, they have already done it. So you'll also meet a lot of like-minded people. So be active in community, like contribute to them whenever is possible. So I would say, I mean, these are the important things. And if you want to be a good developer, read more about software designing, design patterns, and how to write clean code. These are like very important
Hmm.
factors. If you summarize your entire software engineering journey, these are the actually the main factors that will make you a good software engineer or a developer. So yeah, so that's the point I would say. Things. And also don't follow blindly someone who's really highly influential, because the methods, the techniques that another person have applied might not work on you. Your mind is different, and that person's mind is different. So even I would say, whatever path I have followed, don't follow that path. Build your own path. Just see how you can do things. See how others have done it. It's not mandatory to just replicate that. Just see how you can learn from them and build your own things. And do a lot of projects. A lot of projects will definitely help you a lot in terms of developing your habit of writing good code. Do a lot of projects, small projects. It's not mandatory to just do AI/ML. Don't go with the everyone is doing AI/ML, that's why you want to do AI/ML. No,
Hmm.
go with your interest. Find out the daily problems that you're facing and do projects around that. I mean, you can actually build the same calendar which you are using from Google, but you can develop an own calendar with some additional features or some less features. So it's about how you perceive things from your mind, and then you write code and then basically generate projects. So do many projects as possible. That will help you, scaling yourself better. The more projects you do, the more varieties you will get. Yeah, so that's the message I would say to the people.
Yeah, Abhishek, extremely. I am glad that you were a part of this show, because I really know that you are an extremely busy person and you had to spare the time. And this is, I would say, a weekday. Okay, so we are
Yeah.
shooting this on Monday at basically Tuesday night, I would say, and still from your busy schedule, because even on Sundays, Saturdays, you are sometimes busy. And it was extremely great to have you, and I would actually like to thank Afrit specifically for mentioning and suggesting your name. And it was very great. Okay, so word for audience. So I'll put Abhishek's profile in the description box below on the YouTube video. Apart from that, I'll be also giving the links for the Abhishek's podcast. That is the podcast of YML, and second one is
Talk Overflow.
Talk Overflow. I'm sorry, I forgot the name. Yeah, so Talk Overflow. So this was a very great session, Abhishek, and I think you might have brought many values to the audience as a Python developer.
I hope so. And thank you so much for inviting again. I mean,
Yeah.
because it was a great talking to you, and it brought me a lot of my old memories, the hackathons and the college
Exactly.
time. So it was a lot of summary sort of thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed talking with you. So thanks everyone, and thanks everyone for listening, for your patience. And you can also skip where you don't like our part of podcast.
Yeah, I'll be also putting the timestamps accordingly. So, like, I would have conducted this in person, if there was no COVID situation. But this talk was very great, I would say. So, thank you, Abhishek.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
yeah, this is the video. So, thank you for watching. Goodbye.